Most fresh Telegram accounts die in the first week. You register a number, you log in, you immediately start joining groups and sending messages, and a few days later the account is restricted or gone. It is not bad luck. It is that a brand new account behaving like a busy one looks exactly like an automated farm, and the platform treats it that way. So let me show you how to warm an account up properly so it survives. I run managed Telegram hosting on dedicated hardware here in Singapore, real handsets on real carrier SIMs, and I have watched dozens of accounts go through this exact process over 2 years. The goal here is not to evade limits or trick anything, it is the opposite. It is to make a legitimate account look like what it is, a real person quietly using the app, so the platform trusts it enough to let you actually work. This is account health and longevity, nothing else. Here is the plan. First, the 30-day mindset and what you are actually building. Then the day-by-day schedule, from the first 24 hours of silence through the slow ramp in message volume. Then the signals that matter, contacts, profile, consistency. And finally, what the error codes mean when you push too hard, and how managed hosting removes the infrastructure variables that wreck warm-ups for reasons that have nothing to do with you. Start with the mindset, because it changes everything you do. Finish this properly and you end up with an account that Telegram's own systems treat as a real person who has been quietly using the app for a month. That is the whole game. 30 days, roughly 10 to 15 minutes of attention a day. It assumes the number is already registered on a real SIM. By the end, the account can handle group management, channel publishing, or outbound messaging without hitting the restrictions that kill fresh accounts. Skip the warm-up and you will likely burn the number before you get any real use out of it. Before you touch anything, get the basics right, because warm-up on a bad foundation just fails slower. You need a physical SIM-based phone number, not a VoIP line and not a forwarding service. You need the official Android or iOS client at version 10 or later, because older builds miss the session trust signals introduced over the last couple of years. And you need a data connection that stays on one consistent IP for the whole 30 days. One account, one device, one IP. That is not a guideline for this phase, it is a hard constraint. Day 1 is the part everyone gets wrong. Register with your SIM, enter the one-time code, and then do nothing, set the phone down and leave the app completely alone for 24 hours. Do not send a message, do not join a group, do not even run a search. Telegram logs the moment a session is created and watches what happens next. A brand new account that instantly starts messaging and joining matches the exact fingerprint of an automated farm. The first day should produce no signal at all, except that the session exists. On day 2, fill out the profile and do it in one sitting. Add a real profile photo, not a stock image and not something an avatar generator spat out. Set a display name, write a short bio, pick a username if you want one. Doing it all in a single session reads as more natural than dribbling it out over a week. Telegram treats profile completeness as a low-weight but real trust signal. Accounts that stay empty are heavily overrepresented in abuse datasets, so an empty profile quietly marks you as suspicious from the start. While you are in there, turn on two-step verification. It is under Settings, then Privacy and Security, then two-step verification, and the screen walks you through a password and a recovery email. This matters more than it looks. In our operational data, accounts with two-factor turned on get restricted at meaningfully lower rates. The reason is almost certainly that genuine owners bother to set it up and throwaway accounts never do. So switching it on is not just good security, it is one more signal that a real person owns this account. In the first week, add 3 to 5 real contacts. Open your address book and add people you actually talk to who are already on Telegram, or add them by username. Do not add random numbers, do not buy lists, do not run scraping tools. The contact graph is one of the strongest signals the platform uses to decide whether an account is real. An account with 0 contacts that suddenly starts messaging large communities reads completely differently from one with a handful of real mutual connections in the first 7 days. If you have friends or colleagues on there, swap a few genuine messages with them this week. Short, real conversations are worth more right now than any amount of group activity. For days 1 through 7, the rule is passive presence. Join one or two public groups or channels about something you actually care about, and then just read. Do not post. This builds a usage pattern that is completely normal for a huge part of Telegram's user base. If you are in a market where Telegram is the main news and community platform, you already know that quiet lurking is genuinely how millions of people use it. That is exactly the pattern you want to establish. You are accumulating session hours on a consistent IP and device before you produce a single piece of outbound content. Days 8 through 14, you start light engagements there. Begin replying inside groups, but cap yourself at 5 to 10 messages a day across everything combined. Reply inside existing threads rather than starting new ones, and use reactions on messages you read. These small interactions get logged and feed the behavioral profile the anti-abuse systems use to score risk. One specific thing damages accounts badly at this stage: sending the same message text to several groups, even if it is a genuine reply. Repetition at that volume this early reads as automation. Vary your language every time. Days 15 through 21, you expand. You can join another 3 to 5 groups now and lift your daily message count to somewhere between 20 and 40 across all of them. Start your own threads in at least one community. If you need to message people you do not know yet, keep it to 1 or 2 a day and make each message genuinely specific to that person and context. The platform does not publish its exact scoring model, but from watching dozens of accounts on our Singapore farm, the activity pattern in weeks 3 and 4 is the strongest predictor of long-term account health. Consistency matters more than the content of any single message. Days 22 through 30, you move towards your real use case, but the caps stay on. If you are running a channel, publish your first posts. If you are doing community management, take a more active role, but hold the limits through day 30. No more than 50 outbound messages a day to people who are not already contacts. No more than 20 new group joins across the whole week. No mass forwarding of anything. These are not permanent rules, they are calibration for the final stretch. After day 30, you can relax them, but in stages, not all at once. There is one habit that quietly carries the whole thing and most people miss it. Keep a consistent daily activity window. Telegram tracks session patterns over time, not just raw volume. An account that only fires in random 20-minute bursts at unpredictable hours looks different from one that shows activity inside a roughly consistent window each day. You do not need to be online for hours. Open the app, read a little, reply a little, close it inside about the same time band each day. And an account living on a device that keeps moving between networks and changing IPs makes the consistency problem far worse and hard to recover from mid-warm-up. Let me put the outbound budget in plain numbers because this is where people overreach. Week 1, 0 messages to people who are not contacts. Week 2, a maximum of 5 a day. Week 3, 15 a day. Week 4, 30 a day. After 30 days, 50 a day, and revisit even that at the 60-day mark. Those numbers are deliberately low. They are not about what is technically allowed. They are about staying under the threshold that flips a fresh account from looking human to looking automated. One more rule for the 30 days. Do not add secondary devices until the warm-up is finished. Telegram supports logging in on multiple devices, but adding a second device to an account that is less than a month old creates a session pattern that flags easily. One device, one IP for the full 30 days. Once the account has a month of history behind it, adding other devices is much lower risk. Until then, resist it. Now the errors, because you will probably see at least one, and what you do next decides whether the account lives. The first is a flood wait. It shows up as a rate limit, and the number after it tells you how many seconds to wait. Do not retry immediately. Respect the wait, then back your overall activity off for 48 hours before resuming at a lower rate. Repeated flood waits in week 1 or 2 are a reliable warning sign of a coming restriction if you push through them instead of slowing down. The most common early restriction is softer. You suddenly cannot message people outside your contacts. This is almost always triggered by outbound volume that was too high too soon. Stop messaging non-contacts for 72 hours. Keep reading and replying in groups as normal. In most cases, the restriction lifts on its own. If it has not cleared after 7 days, the support form is your only path, and responses run 5 to 14 days in good conditions. so it is far cheaper to never trip it than to wait it out. The worst case is a hard ban in days 5 to 10 with no warning. That usually means the number was previously linked to spam, the IP range is flagged at the carrier level, or the registration details do not match what carrier verification expects. For an account this new, there is no real appeal path. The correct move is to start over with a different number on a demonstrably cleaner IP and go back to day one. There is also a group join limit error where you join too many too fast. If you see it, stop joining for 48 hours and spread your planned memberships across several days instead of one session. Here is the part that matters most for an operator or agency, the infrastructure. The behavioral steps are identical whether you do this on a phone in your hand or on managed hosting, but several of the harder problems are already solved on a hosted setup. The session lives on a physical handset in our Singapore facility on a real carrier SIM. The IP does not rotate. The device does not move. You are not relying on a VPN that might switch exit nodes overnight or a home connection that hands you a new IP every time the router reboots. That stability also handles the daily window for you. The phone stays online in Singapore whether you are asleep or traveling, and you reach it through a browser session from anywhere in the world. Telegram sees a session that has been continuously active on the same Singapore mobile IP since day one. The warm-up budget and the pacing still apply because those are about what the account does, not where it lives. The hosting just removes the infrastructure variables that cause warm-up failures that have nothing to do with your behavior. And if a hosted account does get restricted mid-warm-up, the session logs tell you whether the trigger was something you did or something on the infrastructure, so you can adjust the rest of the 30 days instead of guessing. So here is the whole thing in one breath. Stay silent the first 24 hours. Fill the profile and turn on two-factor on day 2. Add a few real contacts and lurk in week 1. Ramp messages slowly through weeks 2 and 3, hold hard caps through day 30, and keep a consistent daily window the entire time. Respect every error, instead of pushing through it. Do that and you have an account that holds up well past month 1, instead of one more burned number. If you would rather not fight the infrastructure side of this at all, that is exactly what we do. Telegram Vault is managed Telegram hosting on dedicated Singapore hardware, real carrier SIMs from Singtel, M1, StarHub, and Vivify, with a stable non-rotating mobile IP and a handset that stays online 24/7, so your session looks continuously active from day one. You run the warm-up the way I just described, and the IP, the device, and the daily presence are handled for you. The pacing is still yours, but the variables that wreck warm-ups for no reason of your own are off the table. If you want that, head to telegramvault.org. Onboarding starts with a real conversation about your specific setup, not a checkout page, and the code TGYT gets you a discount when you start. The link is in the description. If this saved you a burnt number, subscribe because the next video breaks down dedicated versus shared mobile IPs for Telegram and why a shared residential pool quietly sabotages exactly the trust you just spent 30 days building. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.